welcome to the June 2017 edition of the Plympton Podcast. I'm Andrew Hill. Coming up this month, we cover the change of Lord Mayors, we speak with the new Plympton Youth Ambassador, and we have items related to local history.
The Plympton Podcast.
Plympton's Local History Week took place recently as part of the wider month-long Plymouth History Festival. Over on our Facebook page, you can see a number of pictures from the week, including a rare visit to the grounds of Plympton House. Over at Plympton St Maurice Church, they opened their doors to the public. I went along and met with Church Warden Val Taylor, who started by telling me a bit more about the history of the church.
Well, there was a chapel here prior to 1300. It became a parish church in 1300 and then became dedicated to St Thomas of Canterbury, Thomas of Becket. Original dedication was to St Maurice, Roman centurion, who was martyred for his faith. The oldest part of the church is a Norman arch through the west door.
So as you come in from Barbican Road, it's on the right as you come through the door.
Norman arch. The remains of the church, or the church we have now here, is 14th, 15th century perpendicular style, and has been in continual use since then. The interior of the church is more modern, although we still retain our rood screen. Stained glass windows are modern. The rood screen is not as old as the church. It does incorporate parts of a much older screen in there.
But the wooden architecture in here is absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yes, and because of this, and because of the age of our lighting system, we need to relight the church. We have a fabulous roof with its bosses, which at the moment we can't see. Mm-hmm. So the intention is to have the church relit using modern technology, and we're going to have to raise an awful lot of money to do that, obviously. But it will mean that with the new lighting, the roof will be highlighted, the carvings in the rood screen and the back of the altar on the reredos will also be lit, and it'll give a much better
and I was saying to you before we actually started this recording that the more you look around, the more there actually is to see. You suddenly think, well, hold on a second, I didn't see that just now.
No, indeed. Well, I mean, our most famous old boy, if you like, of course, is Sir Joshua Reynolds, and we have a memorial to him in the church here. And of course, he was educated here in Plympton St Maurice at the grammar school. We also have, of course, the War Memorial here, both in the church, and we are also responsible for the War Memorial, the Cenotaph. So we host, obviously, the Remembrance Day service every November. We're a growing church, increased in congregation, a very lively young mums group with children. We hold a variety of services. We are high church in that we still use the bells and smells, but we do also have a family service every month, a slightly simplified version, and most of that is taken by the children. They actually read the lessons, they do the prayers of intercession, take the collection, and 3 of them act as servers and so help with the elements at the appropriate time. And
on the walls around here, you've got various carvings depicting the crucifixion and things
yes,
like
that.
Yes, we
do indeed. These are modern. This is the Stations of the Cross, and these were actually carved by Susan Morris of Arreston and installed in 1993. So they are modern carvings, and are actually here as a legacy in memory of Mr. R. Munford.
And you've got a few similar memorials for past parishioners dotted around here.
Yes, indeed, yes. Churchyard is still in use. I think our oldest tombstone is about 1633, thereabouts. And so we are still a working churchyard in that although we cannot take full interments, we can only take cremation burials. Mm-hmm.
And on the floors in the aisles here, you have got some old tombstones. There's no one actually under those. You've saved them from outside in the churchyard.
Yes, this is well before my time. I don't know when they were brought in. I'm not sure when this floor was laid, but they were obviously used as part of the flooring at that time.
Yeah. And down near the front there's like what I would describe as a peephole from one of the sides. What's the history of that?
That actually is the old. This is the old squint. This is there as a means of people with leprosy, etc., could observe the Mass taking place without actually coming into the church.
So in the olden days, then the bits we've got on either side of those squint would have been open land and not part of the church.
Yes, as far as I'm aware. We have, of course, the Lady Chapel for private devotions, and that's used for small services as and when.
And then you've got the War Memorial over on the wall over
yes,
for the two World Wars and the local people who had lost their lives in that.
Yeah.
And there are two more parts to my interview with Val, which we'll be hearing a little later on in this podcast. Plymouth now has a new Lord Mayor, Councillor Wendy Foster, who represents the Plymstock Radford ward on Plymouth City Council. It fell to Plympton St Maurice ward Councillor Patrick Nicholson to propose her for the role.
It is a huge honour to be asked to propose my colleague and friend, Councillor Wendy Foster, as our next Lord Mayor. It has been a privilege to have known Wendy for over 20 years, a period in which I've grown to know her well, her husband Ken, and a wider family. Wendy was born in Devonport, later moving to Lipson, and into a highly musical family with her father an accomplished organist and both parents keen singers and members of the historic Clarion Choir. Her grandfather was also Superintendent Minister of the Mount Gould Methodist Church. From an early age, Wendy developed a passion for music and dance, which she used to good effect as a Sunday school teacher. Wendy was educated at Warren School and Business College and started her career as secretary to the ambulance officer of Plymouth, a Mr. Sampson. Unknowingly, Wendy had started her local government service. Now, my Lord Mayor, Conservatives do recognise that there are some good trade union leaders. Maybe not Arthur Scargill or indeed Len McCluskey. But even among our peers here today, Councillors Peter Smith and Chris Mavin, and indeed Councillor Ken Foster himself, have all played an important and positive role in the trade union movement to support the development of staff. Now, as a young, impressionable secretary, Wendy came up against a robust, pushy shop steward, par for the course I would suggest, who was an ambulance driver, who nagged and encouraged her to train as a nurse. Eventually, Wendy conceded and later trained to be a nurse at Freedom Fields and went on to work at Tavistock, Devonport and Plympton hospitals locally and Little Bromwich Hospital in Birmingham, retiring in 1984 to look after her 4 children. So from a young age, we see Wendy develop a passion for music, dance, young people and the caring of others. My Lord Mayor, this passion led Wendy to help her husband Ken enter local politics in November 1996 at a Devon County Council by-election. It just so happens that I have Ken's leaflet that was produced in 1996, which I'm sure remains very familiar to Wendy, having no doubt delivered hundreds of the copies as her apprenticeship into local politics. It was interesting because it says, Ken Foster Conservative, common sense in local government. Now, I'm sure we'd all agree that Conservatives and common sense in local government we'd all agree with. However, on the reverse of the leaflet, which is very interesting, Plymstock swimming pool should become a reality within the next 2 years. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with the saga of a swimming pool for Plymstock, we're now 21 years later and still fighting for a swimming pool for Plymstock. But it just shows that you can start delivering leaflets and end up, all being well, once the council approve it, as Lord Mayor of Plymouth. So well done, Wendy. Now, Wendy decided to throw herself into local politics and successfully stood in 2000 for the Plymstock Radford ward, which she has continuously represented ever since. The importance of the general public and their welfare has always taken precedence for Wendy and is amply demonstrated by her service on numerous committees during her 17 years of service. But of particular note was as Vice Chairman of the Education Committee, a member of the Taxi, Licensing and Planning Committees, Wellbeing, Overview and Scrutiny Panel, the very important Corporate Parenting, and even more important Adoption Panel, for which she's been the only councillor serving on the panel. My Lord Mayor, Wendy's interest in public health was demonstrated as a long-standing member of the Planning Committee. Whilst the rest of the committee were pondering over the design of the development or the proposed activity or the number of people to be employed or housed on the site, Wendy's focus was the sewage and drainage. always ensuring that future occupants' welfare was being well looked after. My Lord Mayor, despite Wendy and Ken's successful elections to Plymouth City Council, they continued their love of music and dance, regularly participating in ballroom dancing at the Crown Hill Royal British Legion and attending concerts and church services throughout the city. Wendy, supported by Ken, are also avid Plymouth Argyle supporters and have been season ticket holders for many years and can be seen wearing an Argyle shirt, scarf and cap at each game. Now, I'm not sure in the next 12 months, Wendy, whether you'll be incognito in that kit or whether you'll be adding your chain to the Argyle Guard, but hopefully you'll still be able to maintain an attendance. Is it at Argyle matches that Wendy now proposes or will now practice her love of music and singing and is often heard chanting, "Come on, you Greens." I know I speak for everyone in the Guildhall today in once again congratulating Plymouth Argyle on their promotion success. And I know the Lord Mayor-elect would like to follow you, Lord Mayor, in welcoming the team back to the Council House following their promotion to the Championship next year. My Lord Mayor, in my opinion, we have a nominee who has two special qualities. He's a good dancer and a music lover. These are not qualities shared by all former occupiers of this high office. The year ahead will have numerous opportunities for the new Lord Mayor to engage with the community organisations across the city, and I hope that dance, fun and music can play a significant part. Perhaps as well as hearing Plymouth Argyle supporters shout, "Come on, you Greens," we may hear the public shout, "Come on, Lord Mayor." As Irving Berlin, who is widely considered to be one of the greatest songwriters, once said, "There may be trouble ahead, but while there's moonlight and music and love and romance, let's face the music and dance." So there may be a busy year ahead at Wendy, supported by Ken, but I wish both of you, assisted by Nick and Helen as your able deputies, a very successful year in office. And it's with that I formally propose, and it gives me enormous pleasure, to propose that Councillor Mrs Wendy Foster be elected Lord Mayor of the City of Plymouth for the ensuing year.
Florence Nightingale Day was held last month, and over at the Mount Goad Local Care Centre, some historic nursing artefacts were on display. Val from Live Well Plymouth told me more about them. You've got old copies of the Nursing Mirror, I see.
I have, yes. They were very kindly donated because, as you can see, I'm a collector of things. So I've been collecting stuff, and people give us stuff as well for our displays. So we've got nursing mirrors from the 1950s. I've got some newer nursing standards which tell us about, and this one in particular is the link with today's nursing in the military, but the links to Florence Nightingale, and again what I was explaining earlier about the changes that came about through the influence of Florence Nightingale. So Edith Cavell, she again was a wartime nurse who sadly got shot as a spy, and Mary Seacole, I've got her little badge on, obviously a well-known person who worked with Florence Nightingale in the Crimea as well to influence and care. And I suppose the key thing that they also brought into nursing as well is the care and the compassion, and actually looking at the holistic person. So we recently, the Department of Health introduced the 6 C's about care and compassion. So our little tray of tea is a symbol of actually sitting down chatting with a patient as well as providing the physical care, but giving them an opportunity to share any worries and concerns. So the artefacts, obviously the lamps and the jug and the bowl are the things that Florence Nightingale would have had. They would have been enamelled. I couldn't find one in time. and the carbolic soap. So, and the literature, just some historical things about the history of nursing, basically.
Well, it's interesting what you're saying earlier about Florence Nightingale in the sort of battlefield environment.
Yes.
It's obviously a lot more difficult, I would imagine, to keep hygiene in that scenario than in an actual hospital ward.
Absolutely. I think some of the conditions she found when she first... I think she was sent a newspaper report initially, about the horrific situation that some of those servicemen were finding themselves in. And we've got some pictures here of some of the wards because... she looked after them in tents originally, and the sand, and when we're making beds, for example, people used to laugh at me because I'd always say you've got to have the pillowcase facing away from the ward door, you see, and that actually was symbolic because in the tent, if you had a pillowcase, they didn't have the envelope end, and the windstorm blew the sand. It would fill the pillow up with sand, so the patient would be trying to sleep on a pillow full of sand. So I don't know, I don't work on the wards at the moment, but traditionally you'd always have the pillowcase end away from the ward door so that it didn't fill up with sand.
Right, okay.
I thought that was a sort of legacy of the things. And obviously from a hygiene point of view, resources, soap and water, very few and far between. So it was a real challenge to ensure that the soldiers and the military didn't get their infections, which obviously they did, and loss of limb through infection was really high. So that was when she, as I said, did the report for the Department of Defence about what needed to be done to make things better for those servicemen and prevent those horrendous infections. So, a lot of the literature that I've got here, I mean, I've got some poems. Some of the stuff is from the First World War. Some of it is, I've got artefacts from Second World War as well, but all of it just emphasises the need for really good practice when resources are very difficult to come by, to enable people to provide that really good high standard of care that to protect the servicemen from loss of limb, really.
The Plympton Podcast.
The annual Coburg Carnival and Fair takes place at Peacock Meadow on Saturday the 1st of July from 11am to 5pm. There'll be a formal opening by the Stanitor of Plympton at 1pm, followed by a dog show. There will also be medieval displays at 1:30 and 3pm, as well as appearances throughout the day by Star Wars characters. In addition, there'll be performances by Guitars for Youth, the Heel School Band and the Kernow Samba Band, among others. So all that's at Peacock Meadow in Coburg, Saturday the 1st of July between 11am and 5pm.
Andrew Hill.
During the local history week here in Plympton, there was a medieval music night at Plympton St Maurice Church. At the end of the performance, Charlotte Willis caught up with two of the musicians who had been entertaining the congregation.
Right here with me tonight is Russell and Nick, and you've been doing a medieval folk. Can you tell us more about that?
Okay, well, it's not only folk music we've been doing a mixture of stuff, tunes and songs from various types of situations, like court music and religious music, so pilgrim songs and folk music, dances, kind of village dance material, stuff like that.
Okay, great. Can you tell us more about the instruments? Because some of the instruments you played tonight were amazing.
Yeah, so I was playing a Greek bouzouki, which is obviously not around at the time, medieval times, but it is descended from a long-necked lute. So it is the same family of instruments, so it does work with this kind of music.
Can you tell us also how you actually came about starting to play this?
Oh, that's a long story. It goes back to medieval times almost, probably. I started off playing folk music, like that Mick Bramich has been playing tonight, something similar to that, and had some friends who were interested in medieval music, and they recruited me to play in a band, and we formed a band, and that was quite some time, about 10 years ago, more maybe, and then Russell joined a bit more recently. And,
I haven't been playing with these guys for so long, but I've been interested in various types of music from all around the world, different countries, all my adult life really. So it goes back, 30 odd years of being actively involved in playing different instruments, the lutes and percussion and stuff like that.
Yeah, because earlier on you were playing a lovely violin with a metal bottom. Can you tell us more about that?
Okay, yeah, that's a spike fiddle. That's like a particular type of bowed instrument, and they started off in Central Asia, in kind of north of the Caspian Sea area, so quite a long way from here. And then they came into Europe through the Silk Trade and arrived in the Mediterranean area, and then eventually came to Western Europe through contact with Spain in the Middle Ages. So it's a kind of long route that it's taken. But they were played in Britain from kind of Middle Ages time until now. You know, there are still quite a few players around, especially in the early music kind of area of entertainment.
Okay, because I thought I heard you say earlier you made your own. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. I've made quite a few instruments, different things, spike fiddles and quite a few percussion instruments. Yes.
Okay, and if people want to get in touch with you and want to see you perform, where do you perform to?
Well, we perform in a different band with some other people. It's called Ensemble Baklava, and we're often in the Bread and Roses pub in Ebrington Street in Plymouth, and also in the B Bar we play. So that band is called Ensemble Baklava.
We have a website as well.
It's a website, yes.
Which is www.baklavamusic.com. BAKLAVAMUSIC.com. Baklava Music. So you can find out all our gigs on there and stuff. We do quite a lot around here, so.
Okay, great. Thanks. Well, thank you for taking up the time and thank you for letting me interview you. That's been much appreciated. Thanks a lot.
Back now to the selection of the new Lord Mayor. Earlier we heard Councillor Patrick Nicholson proposing Conservative colleague Wendy Foster for the role. This proposal was seconded by Labour Group leader Tudor Evans.
It gives me great pleasure to be standing here today, seconding such a fine speech from Patrick. And of course, the usual joy of following such a full speech as that is that there's very little left to say. But I am delighted to be seconding the incoming Lord Mayor, yet another remarkable woman councillor to take this most important office. Patrick's spoken a little bit, I think, about what makes Wendy tick. So there's no need really for me to repeat the excellent summary of her life and career on the council. But I wanted just to stir up a little controversy. So I did ask Wendy if she'd name me her favourite part of Plymstock. And of course, as I said, there's an election on. It's like judging the beauty contest at the fair, isn't it? Or the dog show. You can't say which is your favourite, because everywhere in your ward is important. But she did leave me with a little insight, which is a lovely story about when she was a teenager, going across on the boat, to be at the beach there at Turnchapel. And I have to say, you know, there's a lovely story about shouting out there loudly and hoping to get a flicker of recognition and echo. I'll be talking about Ken in a minute. But if I could say that, you know, they do come as a bit of a pair, I would say. I mean, Ken has been Wendy's Rock for, is it 30, how many years now? 35 years. And that's a fantastic partnership, and it will be fascinating for those of us who've only really seen them in the sort of political environment to see how they work in this environment. I am utterly confident that they're going to go down like a storm across the city. It's going to be fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing you work. I did a speech a few years ago. As you know, Wendy was a nurse. And I did a speech a few years ago about Dennis Camp. Some of you may remember the speech I gave, where with Dennis's career, every place that he's ever served in the armed forces had been closed. My friend Eddie Rennie is often fond of telling us that every school he ever attended is closed. And with Councillor Wendy Foster, this may come as a shock to you to know, but with one exception, every place that she ever worked in the health service is now closed. That's right, isn't it? Freedom Fields, gone. Plympton, the Wendy Foster effect. Wadham House in Liskeard, not just Plymouth, under fire, and the aforementioned Little Bromwich in Birmingham, gone. There is only one left. So I say to you now, in all honesty, if you get the offer of a visit of the Lord Mayor of Plymouth to Tavistock Hospital this year, run for your lives. Thank you. I so move.
Part 2 now of my visit to Plympton St Maurice Church, and I started this second part of my discussion with Church Warden Val Taylor by remarking on the amazing stained glass windows in the church.
Yes, they are indeed, and I'm trying to find a date for those, but I don't think we've got one. No, all I'm told here is they are modern.
And the bells, when they're rung here, you people can actually see that going on, which is a bit different than in some churches.
Yes, that is fairly new, or fairly modern, again. They used to ring from where the font is, and this became a bit of a glory hole, apparently, so a previous incumbent decided to do away with that, raise the bell platform, the ringing platform, and take the bell ringers up above, and open up this area. The font used to stand over in the side of the church, and it's now been brought into the middle of the church. And again, that is so that members of the congregation, when there's a christening taking place, if it's within the service, then everybody can turn around and see what's going on and be part of the christening. But yes, our bells are rung every Sunday, and obviously for weddings and funerals, as requested. We have a full team of bell ringers, and the bell ropes have just been renewed.
Right.
So it's another ongoing thing with any old building, any old church. A lot of maintenance to do.
And you've got the font. In fact, you've got two, haven't you? You've got the one which is in use, the granite font immediately in front of us, with the wooden structure on top.
And the old font, which
that's an old wooden one.
Yes, is no longer in use. It's probably 17th century. The present font was actually presented to the church in 1872.
And you've got the list of past clergymen who've been in charge of the church here over the years as well.
Yes, and I think that goes back to
1550. Is that William Sherwell?
Yes. Right down to the Bishop James Mason, who was our vicar here in 2004. And he retired about 3 years ago and returned to the Solomon Islands.
Oh, right, okay. And you've got a little short door here, which anyone would have to sort of bend their head down to go through. So that takes where the bell ringing.
Access both to the bell tower, the ringing chamber, right up, and also into the actual chamber itself where the bells are hung, and then right up onto the roof.
Oh, right, okay. And the two main doors you've got as you come in from Barbican Road in here, I mean, the architecture of that one and the one immediately opposite, they're quite interesting.
Yes, again, I can't give a date to those. Not known, but they are solid doors, studded.
Okay, and you've got a picture over there. I mean, you commented on the Sir Joshua Reynolds connection. There's the Reynolds memorial on the wall there.
The two pictures we have in the church of the Madonna and St Mary Magdalene are both copies of pictures that are hung in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. One is a copy. I can't pronounce that name.
Right, okay. Sassoferrato,
yes, and Carlo Dolci.
Okay.
The two artists there.
And over on one of the window ledges there you've got some wool dolls. What's their history and significance?
We have a representation of the Last Supper in knitting, which was knitted by one of our elderly parishioners of long standing 3 or 4 years ago now. She made, I believe she made a second set for her son, who's a parish priest elsewhere in the country, and a set for us.
I mean, that's certainly something a little bit different, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Yes, it's something the children like to look at and to see.
In an ancient stunnery town, with programs just for you, the Plympton Podcast.
The June General Meeting at Plympton's Youth Array will feature a fascinating talk about the old Greenbank Hospital. The talk will be given by Maggie Holmes, who worked there for many years. Both members and non-members are welcome to attend. It gets underway at 2 p.m. in Herod House on Tuesday the 27th of June.
The Plympton Podcast.
During the Florence Nightingale Day exhibition last month, I also raised the issue of how clothing and uniforms have changed over the years. I suppose it's interesting as well as how the nurses' uniform has changed over the years.
Absolutely.
Today, the emphasis is on having the area around the wrist and anything below the elbow bare. You've had to roll up your period costume there to resemble that, haven't you?
Well, the thing is, in my earlier days, my uniform did have long sleeves, but we rolled it up and put on the nice little white cuffs. And we are finding it really strange today wearing these uniforms because of the long sleeves, so it's automatic to actually be bare below the elbows, because that's what we promote for all of our staff, and obviously we act as role models, so we are also bare below the elbows. Our usual uniform is a little red top with black trousers, but again bare below the elbows. So today wearing this period costume is really strange, and you automatically want to roll the sleeves up so that you are bare below the elbows. And we've got down there just a wristwatch and a ring, so part of being bare below the elbows is that we don't encourage people to wear wristwatches or rings, because any contaminants can sit in the under the wristwatch or sit in the ring, but you can't wash your hands properly or decontaminate your hands properly. So we've just got that as a symbol of what not to wear, really.
So what about when visitors come in, then? Are they encouraged not to wear wristwatches and jewellery?
We wouldn't ask them not to wear jewellery, but what we do, and we've got plenty of posters around our organisation, some which were done by some primary school children several years ago when we had a little competition. So we've got those posters around, and we've got lots of information about encouraging people, visitors, patients as well, obviously the staff, but anybody visiting our wards would be encouraged to wash their hands or decontaminate them as they're going in and out. We don't have the voice over because people, I think, found that somewhat annoying at times, but we do, if we do see people, perhaps we would give a gentle reminder if they haven't actually washed their hands, because we can bring all sorts of infections in. People may have taken their dog for a walk to the park or something, been on local transport, and you don't always know what is around. Certainly flu time, those flu germs spread very easily, and we know about norovirus as well. They again transfer very easily on people's hands. So it's doing the best we can without imposing our values on other people, but encouraging people to be aware of the risks of not washing hands, basically.
No, the other thing you notice here today with you in your period costume is you've got hats on. You don't tend to see nurses wearing hats these days. So why are you not wearing them now? Why did you wear them then?
They wore them then because we were discussing this earlier. We think this was a crossover from the nuns' outfits, really, because a lot of people today thought we were nuns. So we think that period of time was when nuns used to provide a lot of care, and the crossover is really from a nun's uniform. And of course there's evidence and research goes on. When I was a student nurse, I don't want to keep going back in time, but we wore white aprons, and to prevent contamination we used to fold the apron over. Well, I don't know really what that achieved, but we now have evidence and research. So since as time has gone on, we've got more evidence, more research. Ignaz Semmelweis was the original person who realised that hand washing was one of the key things. But since then, we've had a lot of people, prominent people, done lots of research into, we now wear, instead of an apron, we would wear a single-use plastic apron that provide the care, throw the apron away. We wear gloves, remove the gloves, wash hands, throw the gloves away, wash our hands. So, and the hats really didn't serve any useful purpose when they transformed into those little caps. Possibly this type of hat might have held your hair back, but as you can see, you've then got the long back, which would, as you're leaning over a patient, potentially that could be draping over the patient. So they might provide a useful purpose in one sense, but not in another. So, and long hair, we always wear our hair up, because again, if you're providing care for a patient, you wouldn't want your hair dangling over the patient either. So a lot of things have changed, but the hats, they were purely decorative, to be honest. Didn't actually serve a useful purpose at all. But in the past, I think things evolve all the time, don't they? And as we get more knowledge, which is we've already said is the lantern, the symbolic lantern, is to share that knowledge. And next year we may know more about what we should and should not be wearing and what we should be doing. But at the moment it's quite a basic uniform, minimal jewellery, can wear little stud earrings and a plain wedding band, but the hat, no.
We're going back now to the Lord Mayor's choosing ceremony at Plymouth Guildhall, where His Honour Judge William Taylor is just about to swear the new Lord Mayor into office, and after which Councillor Mrs Foster gives a moving explanation as to why she's chosen the charity she has to be the Lord Mayor's charity for the coming year.
Lord Mayor, I invite you to take the declaration of acceptance of office. Will you please repeat after me? I, Wendy Carroll Foster.
I, Wendy Carroll Foster.
Having been elected to the office of Lord Mayor.
Having been elected to the office of Lord Mayor.
Hereby declare.
Hereby declare.
That I take the said office upon myself.
That I take the said office upon myself.
And will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties thereof.
And will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties thereof.
According to the best of my judgment and ability.
According to the best of my judgment and ability.
Will you please sign a written declaration to that effect? Thank you. Many congratulations. My Lord Mayor, may I present you with a pair of ceremonial kid gloves, bearing as they do on the cuff the arms and crest of this ancient and proud city.
Deputy Lieutenant of Devon, Honorary Recorder of Plymouth, Honorary of Freeman, and Honorary Alderman of Plymouth, members of the City Council, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, young people, sorry. I feel very humbled and honoured to have been chosen by the City Council as the Lord Mayor of Plymouth for this year, and thank all those who have supported me in the past 17 years as a councillor, especially the voters of the Plymstock-Radford ward, who have made this day possible. To be elected as Lord Mayor is a great privilege. I am looking forward to my year in office, and especially meeting many of you in the community, and particularly those of you who work in the caring professions and voluntary groups. As a former nurse, I know how hard it is, how much work you have to do. I have pleasure in welcoming my cadet this year, who is Sergeant Amber Platt of the 2339 Air Training Corps, based at Plymstock School, where she is currently a pupil. She tells me that after her exams, she hopes to study oceanography at Plymouth University. A bright girl, I think. I hope that you're able to achieve this ambition, Amber, and that the experience of being my cadet will prove beneficial to you in the future. I have chosen Jeremiah's Journey as my charity, which is based here in Plymouth. It was founded 20 years ago to help support and comfort, give help and comfort to children who have lost a parent. This charity enables them to meet other children in the same situation by sharing in activities, trips, and if needed, therapy and grief counselling, so that they are not alone trying to cope with the loss. I expect you're wondering why I've chosen Jeremiah's Journey as my charity. I will explain. In 1973, my own children were in this situation when my husband was killed in an accident at work. He was 37 years old. My twin girls were 9 and my son 7. They found it very difficult to pour out their grief to me, as I was numb with shock and obviously grieving myself. And also, I was 16 weeks pregnant with my youngest child. They needed an organisation such as Jeremiah's Journey to help them cope with the immediate trauma and the difficult years ahead. But no such charity for bereaved children in Plymouth in 1973. I'm glad there is now. So I am very pleased to be able to nominate Jeremiah's Journey as Lord Mayor's charity for my year, so that much needed help and support is given to those children who are going through this very painful period in their lives. I do hope that you'll be able to support them so that they will be able to continue their valuable work. Thank you very much.
Plympton now has a new youth ambassador. The role is being created by Plympton Community Council as a means of getting younger people more involved in the community and ensuring that the voice of the town's young people is better heard. After a competitive interview process, 14-year-old Isaac Hudson was selected for the role. He told me how he felt about being chosen.
Excited. Just hope for the next year, just doing different things, having really interesting opportunities. Yeah, really excited.
And what actually inspired you to put yourself forward for the role?
When I opened the email from my deputy head teacher, I just looked at that and thought, that's for me. I thought it was a really good opportunity. I just kind of glanced at it and just went, yeah.
Okay. Now, you've been involved, I think, as an ambassador for Stepping Stones. To what extent do you feel that will help you in the role of Plympton's Youth Ambassador?
Well, the experience of representing people and talking to other people, that will definitely help, because this one is on a much larger scale. So, the earlier experience will definitely help, yeah. Okay.
And what in particular do you think you will enjoy in the role in the coming 12 months?
Feeling important, basically. Having the meetings, being involved within the community. Yeah.
And how much you feel it's important for members of your generation to actually actively be involved in community events and being involved with people at different ages and so on?
Well, I feel it's really important because given 10 years in the future, my generation will be the generation that's setting up these things. So starting them off young and having them be involved in these things, sometimes setting them up, will definitely kind of lead them on to give them a really good experience with it in the future. Okay, well, good luck in the forthcoming 12 months. If I just move now to your mum, Rachel. Now, Mum, this must be a proud day for you.
Oh, yes, very, very, very proud. Yes, very excited as well for Isaac.
And you'll obviously be encouraging him in his role in the next year.
Definitely. I'm quite a proactive mum, so we've got quite a bit of drive in the family, so yes.
Well, that said, it was his own initiative to do this, he tells me, and told you afterwards he put the form in before you knew about it.
Yes, definitely. Well, he came back, he'd seen the email sent in school, and he came home and said, I've seen this is what I want to do. And he wrote his application. So I said, are you going to send it? And he said, no, I'm taking it down now. So he literally came home, wrote the application and took it down. So he was very, very efficient. I was really impressed. OK, well, good luck to both of you, and no doubt we'll see a lot of you in the weeks and months to come. Thank you.
Thanks. Plymouth Armed Forces Day takes place on Plymouth Hoe on Saturday the 24th of June. It's a spectacular day with a variety of events, including air displays, parades, demonstrations and much more. Things get underway with a memorial service at 9:30am. Other highlights include a junior field gun competition, an RAF Chinook flypast, the Military Wives Choir, and in the evening musical entertainment from the Band of Her Majesty's Royal Marines, the Harmonettes, Joy the Lips and Toya Wilcox and Band. So all that's on Plymouth Hoe on Saturday the 24th of June.
Andrew Hill.
At the ceremony for the choosing of the new Lord Mayor, there was a vote of thanks for the work of the outgoing post-holder Councillor Pauline Murphy. That vote of thanks was seconded by Plympton Earl Councillor Terry Beer.
It gives me great pleasure to second the vote of thanks and gratitude to Councillor Pauline Murphy. Reflecting back on your exciting year, you've certainly done so much and met so many of our Plymouth citizens. As I was reflecting on your year, I remember all the occasions we met in the course of your duties as Lord Mayor and in my duty as a Cabinet Member for Children and Young People. I have to say there's been a lot of love in this city during the year of office, and I recall everyone getting a hug and some even getting a peck on the cheek. We have all seen how you put people at ease, and the children are certainly not shy of approaching you. The Stanator at Plympton, Mrs. Rose Hamley, recalled recently attending St George's Day service, where many young people attended, and how they were high-fiving and doing dabbing. I think you better show us what dabbing is so that we all understand. Well done. In church services that you attended with our young people from primary age, it's recalled that one young person did a reading and afterwards came up and gave you a high five. I think I did. It was a pleasure for us to attend the Military Heroes Awards at Stonehouse Barracks, where we met young people whose parents serve in our armed forces. We heard some inspiring stories and achievements from our young people. Each young person collected their awards and received a hug from you. You can never forget how moved we all were at the You Can Do It Awards, when all our looked after children were awarded certificates and prizes. It was a very moving evening for us all. In Devonport Guildhall, we met foster parents who served the city for our looked after young people, some over 30 years. It was an incredibly moving evening that left some of us with tears in our eyes. Foster parents are incredibly dedicated to care for our looked after children, and it was a pleasure to recognise their work. MTV crashes on Plymouth Hoe. I recall we both turned up in heels to boogie the night away. You were the sensible one, though. You wore flat shoes halfway through the evening. I kept my high heels on that killed me, and I went barefoot back to the car at the end of the evening. The Festival of Remembrance at Plymouth Pavilions was a moving event as we remembered those who fought in wars. You truly are an ambassador for the armed forces in this city, and I recall the warmth and pleasure that the audience had for you that night. More recently, we attended the diving championships for the senior and junior divers at Plymouth Life Centre. There were some heart-stopping displays, as I remember, but we got down to the poolside to award medals and flowers. What a proud moment it was for Plymouth when you welcomed Plymouth's top team to the Council House after their open-top tour of the city. Plymouth Argyle has certainly put Plymouth out there, and the players received medals and a hug from you. And don't think I didn't see you boogieing on the balcony. I have to make mention of your chosen charities and the fundraising you've done for them. I'm confident they will be delighted with your efforts. And finally, how will we cope without our aerobic exercises during our council meetings? Yeah, that's what we do in council meetings. Up, down, in, out. We had so many adjournments for a variety of reasons. We'll miss those, Pauline. Pauline, can I just again say a huge thank you to you and your consort, Councillor Brian Vincent, your deputy and his consort, for the outstanding work you have done for the city. Lord Mayor, it gives me great pleasure to second this motion. Thank you.
Back for the final time this month to Plympton St Maurice Church, where the church warden Val Taylor told me what sort of response there had been to the open day.
We had 26 or so people through yesterday. Not so many today so far, but still a good response. And it's nice to be able to welcome the population into the church. Mm-hmm. There are only certain occasions when we can do this. Regrettably, due to vandalism in the past, we can only open the church on certain days while there are people available to do it. Yeah.
And in one of the corners here, you've got like a living reenactment.
This is the Easter garden, which comes into church every Eastertide and stays from Easter through to the appropriate date for removal. We do also have a children's area in the church, which is used both by the young mums when they come in for the service, and also, of course, for christening parties. If they've got young children with them, they're very welcome to go and play there.
Because churches are moving into that direction now, having more sort of social activities as well as the traditional services and so on.
Yes, of course, we're lucky here because we have a church hall immediately adjacent, so we host coffees in there every Sunday after the service, and the hall is used extensively by outside groups, painting groups, dancing groups, yoga, and other things. We host children's parties in there. We do Lent lunches in there every Lent to raise money for charity. This year we raised £503, I think it was, for the food bank in Plymouth. So we support local charities as well.
Now, you mentioned earlier the appeal you're going to have going here for the roof and the lighting of it so people can see it a bit better. Do you have any idea how much it's going to cost to do what you want to do?
Yes, we do. We have a local lighting contractor has put forward a scheme which we've accepted. It obviously has to go to the diocese in Exeter for their approval. It's been looked at by our architect, who is well connected to the diocese. We need to get a faculty for it. The total cost, allowing for incidentals and, of course, legal fees, etc. We're looking at between £50,000 and £60,000. Quite incredibly, on the day that we informed the congregation that we'd accepted the scheme in principle and needed to start fundraising, I was handed one cheque by a member of the congregation for £1,000 to start it off, and another member of the congregation has paid all our fees up to date.
Wow.
So we're starting from a clean slate. We have certain funds within the church we may be able to realise. That's being investigated at the moment. And other than that, we're out with a begging bowl.
So if anyone is interested in supporting this appeal, how can they assist?
The simplest thing is to contact myself. I think probably initially, if you contact me, as you've already been told, my name is Val Taylor. I'm one of the church wardens here. My email address, which is probably the easiest and quickest way to contact initially, is val.taylor, Taylor, 46@gmail.com.
Okay, well, Val, we wish you well with that appeal. It certainly looks as though it will be worth it when it's up and lit, and I'm sure that people will enjoy seeing that when that project comes to fruition.
I sincerely hope so, and we look forward to welcoming many people into the church.
Okay, well, thanks very much indeed for telling us a bit about the history of this church and some of its key features, and also this appeal that you've got going on.
It's been a great pleasure, and thank you very much.
For our penultimate feature this month, outgoing Lord Mayor Councillor Pauline Murphy replies to the vote of thanks and looks back at some of the highlights of her year in office.
Serving as Lord Mayor of this city has been a great privilege, and every day I have served in this role has been a wonderful honour. I feel very proud to have been a Lord Mayor of our great city. It's a city with a heart and a soul. The time has gone by in a flash. It seems like only yesterday I was on this stage making my acceptance speech. But it has been a remarkable year, and one that I've enjoyed immensely. 1 year on, it's been a very demanding year, and I'm probably spent the last few weeks of being Lord Mayor running on adrenaline. But I wouldn't change it for the world. Being Lord Mayor, you are not here to show favour to any group, but to act as a representative of Plymouth, putting politics to one side and acting first and foremost for the city of Plymouth. We may all come from many different and diverse walks of life with different political thinking, but our common link is that we all inhabit this city. We all want a safe and prosperous city for our children and future generations, and we are all elected to work in the interests of Plymouth. And it is about engaging with the community. It is the duty and responsibility of all of us to unite behind whoever the council chooses as Lord Mayor, and the office of the Lord Mayor is one that is here to serve the people of Plymouth. Over the course of the year, you get to meet so many amazing people. Across Plymouth, we have many unsung heroes, and over the past year, I've met hundreds. The foster carers looking after some of our most vulnerable children, the volunteers who give their time selflessly, the charity fundraisers who devote themselves to raising funds that will have an impact on people's lives, our armed forces, our standard bearers and veterans who support many of our civic events throughout the year, and not forgetting our fantastic MKC heroes. The list is endless, and they all deserve our genuine and heartfelt praise. As a Lord Mayor, you get asked what has been the highlight of your year. I can honestly say that every engagement that we have attended has been very special. It is fantastic to be invited, to be part of a special day, whatever the occasion. And without those invites, our year wouldn't have been as amazing as it has been. I thank the people of Plymouth. Without them, being Lord Mayor would be a dull job. We have a city filled with people making it more beautiful, more interesting, fairer, friendlier and more equal. A city that's filled with love, friendship, ambition and hope. I also give thanks to the extraordinary generosity of the people who have supported my charities, both Frontline Veteran Support and mesothelioma. Nearly £7,000 has been raised, which is amazing, especially in the economically difficult times that we face today. And I'm sure these charities express their gratitude the same as I do. It is wonderful to see so many young people here today. Amongst them might be our future Lord Mayor in years to come. That is why, as a city, we must protect the Lord Morality. It is a visible, positive feature of the City Council and for all Plymothians and visitors across all walks of life. An ideal focal point for the forthcoming Mayflower 400 celebrations in 2020, when the eyes of the world will be on Plymouth. We must treasure this as few cities have what we have. My year as Lord Mayor has only been enjoyable and successful due to a number of supporters, and I have many people to thank. And at this point, I'm just going to ask my flower ghost just to do me a little favour. Brian, my consort, the support he has given me throughout the year has been amazing. Not only has he attended all of the engagements, but has also worked really hard in the background arranging all of my charity events. I have valued this support. Sam and Bethan, my deputies, over the past year, they have provided great support and have helped immensely in undertaking the engagements I couldn't attend. They both have made fantastic deputies for this city, and I value the great work that they have done. Finley, my cadet, has been outstanding. Not only is he a credit to the Royal Marine Cadets, his school and his family, but he is also a credit to this city. We are very proud of you. I wish you every success for your future. I know you will go far. Carl, my chaplain, who has supported me throughout my year and who has attended all of the full council meetings to lead us in prayer. Thank you. The Lord Morality staff, Elizabeth, Kate, Sophie, Sarah, Steve and Kevin, and not forgetting Sam, who manages Elliot Terrace and the Guild Hall. They've all been fantastic. They all work incredibly hard. The amount of work that they do to make sure that the Lord Mayor's term of office runs smoothly and efficiently is amazing. They are a great team to have behind you. The understanding and help from my family members and loved ones, my employer and work colleagues, is the reason why I have been able to undertake this role in the last year. Lastly, I would like to thank the people of Efford, Lipson, Lair and Deer Park, my ward that I am so proud to represent and campaign for. These constituents have put their faith in me and have taken the time to put a cross next to my name in local elections. Without their efforts and trust in me, I wouldn't have had the pleasure of representing this city as Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, I wish you every success for the forthcoming year. I know you will be a great ambassador for this city. Thank you.
And finally for this edition, we hear about a special lamp which is being passed around as part of the recent Florence Nightingale Day.
With the lamp, what we're doing this year is the professional leader started that off, and what she's doing is, what we have to do in the organisation is everybody has to put somebody forward. They have to put somebody forward for the lamp and to say that this person has worked in the organisation or they've been a nurse for a very, very long time. They've got lots of knowledge and they can pass that knowledge on to others. So the lamp is going around all different teams. So we can only nominate one person from the team. That person then has to write down on a piece of paper the knowledge and information to pass on for newly qualified nurses or student nurses, the knowledge they've got over the years to help with patient care and then all the pieces of paper go from nurse to nurse to nurse till it gets to the last one, and then they've got all the information, all the knowledge that can be shared.
So this travels around the country at the moment, doesn't it?
It's only travelling around our organisation, which obviously we've got Tavistock and Kingsbridge, Devonport, so...
Okay, so here today, Val is the one who's been chosen to be the recipient of it.
Val has been nominated, and we were honoured to be given the lamp today for our stand, but the actual journey starts on Friday, so Val will have the lamp officially on Friday.
Well, that's it for another month. Hope you've enjoyed the selection of features we've had this time. Remember to keep up to date with local happenings on our Facebook and Twitter feeds. But until our next audio podcast, it just remains for me to thank audionautics.com for our theme and production music, and also you for listening. And until the next time, bye for now.